Hello Rover fans, I've finished my roof, which is looking rather nice, so I can turn my attention back to the car. Last time I was dismayed to find lots of annoying rustiness up there which I hadn't expected. The rest of it is all really good and I'm happy with that. There is one bit there I'm not too bothered about that. Somebody suggested using a special fiberglass wheel or poly wheel or something to clean all this off, and you're exactly right. I'm going to get all this off probably with a strip and clean disc, but I'll wait until I've got my new shock absorbers. I'll be concentrating just on doing this bit. I won't be de-rusting the rest of it. I probably won't even do that patch. Might just put some gob over it just for the moment. I have got here a panel which I completely forgot I had, and it's one that you probably very rarely see nowadays. It is a genuine Austin Rover British Leyland pressing. This is the inner wheel well from the near side of the car, so it would be in there over there. But what we have at the bottom, this side, is precisely the correct shape part that we need, albeit the mirror image. But I don't care, because that is a really good start for me, so I can start using this as a template. And essentially what I need is the reverse of this from about there all the way down to there. So you can see that that will create a slight problem, because we curve that way, curve to a flat along there, and then dive down to a return this side. So I can do this in several ways. This crisp return, I don't necessarily need that. That's really just for factory. So that's not massively critical important. All we need is that return there for this to be plug welded to, and a nice flat edge to go against there, and the rest we can kind of hammer into shape as we weld it. But at least I've got the basis is here for what I need, and the curve. So I'm going to get some cardboard out and then start working out the most sensible way of doing it. It all started getting quite confusing, so I've had what I hope is a good idea. I'm going to make the lip of the wheel arch first, and to do that I'm going to just fold this piece into a 90 degree. Then that will form the return for the spot weld and the beginnings of the bit that curves around to make the inner wheel well. Basically putting bits of cardboard everywhere and trying to do cardboard engineering wasn't really happening. There was no hard edges to work from. This is my little strong arm thing, sits in a vise. They're really good. You can't do massive things, and you can't do complex curves or anything, but just for bending things into 90 degree sections, it's really good. So thanks Uncle Ian for buying me this. I think it was a Christmas present. It's had a lot of use. They are good. So weighing that in there, do this kiddie up. None of this has to be super accurate. It's all gonna get poked and beaten anyway. That will probably do for the first knockings. Now I can take that to the panel that I've got, the repair panel, cut slots in this until I bend it around the profile I need, tack weld it together, and then start looking at forming it the right shape, and then making an extension piece to go around the rest of the wheel well. It might look a bit crappy, but this is the only way I can think to do it. Whilst I could have stretched out this side, I always would have had to cut slots in this side to shrink it, because I don't have a stretcher shrinker machine. So I'm going to put that in there, clamp it up into place, and then tack it where I'm happy that these pieces are the right distance. I was going to try and do it on here in the reverse of what I need, but because it bends in 2 directions, that's not going to be easy. So although I could do it in 2 steps and just get the actual curve of it right, doing it like that and following that curve, it's still a bit sketchy. So that strip is in and tacked in a number of places on this side. Now I need to tack these slots here where it doesn't matter if I can't fill it right in, but I just want to stop it from flexing and moving, which will be hard, but if I can get a weld in down there, hopefully it will not warp when I take it out. That's the benefit of these little helmets. This is a Stealth Vader. It's very low profile, so you can get your head right in the wheel arch and see what you're doing. With that bit now tacked so it can't move in shape, I've made this bit which will go, oh yeah, that's the other thing I've decided. I'm doing it in 2 sections, so from that line up to the top, and then from that bit down. And I made a plate for there the other day, and I'll probably salvage part of it, but I'll have to extend it to here. So yeah, so I'm going to now make this bit out of metal and then tack that in to the return, then pull the whole assembly out, put more tacks on it, heavy tacks so nothing can move, and then offer it in and out, clean it up, then do the final welding off the car, then put it back in the car. You know what I mean. Welding in here blind is not easy, but what we have now is the framework for a repair panel. No, it's not pretty, but I know with a bit of jimmy nudgery this will go in. I've left extra meat everywhere. It's all along that back edge, all the way up here, so I don't need that much at all. The reason I did cut it big is, one, if I end up welding it over here, it's a lot easier to clean up with the drill afterwards, and B is it's always nice to have extra metal because it moves in funny ways and you're never quite sure what you will or won't need or will need to cut through and tweak. So this can all come out now. That can be welded up. That can all be welded up. Then it can be dressed, made to look really pretty. Then I can do the final trim and fit and weld it in the car. Okay, this is not artwork. Do not be scared, it will look better. But we have, in a wheel well shape, that fits. So there's quite a lot of cleaning up to do. I need to reprofile the top end there, which is why I haven't welded it up yet. But at least I can get going with the bottom end. And get in there with the power file, grinder, you name it. It has just started raining though, which is quite annoying. So I don't know whether I'll do that now or just dodge a few showers. Oh, that's much better. I haven't gone mental sanding the outside because there's no point, because when it's the outside here, it's the inside in the car and you'll never see it. What you hopefully will see is a nice row of plug welds along there and a nice seam down there. That's about all I'm going to do today. There are still some bits to weld up. I sanded a bit deep here and created a pinhole, and I need to do the final trimming and shaping. But overall, pretty happy with that. Again, all of this lumpiness, I'm not going to try and sand it out. It's pointless. I'll just be losing strength. And you'll never see it. And by the time this has been epoxied, a sweep of seam sealer, and under seal, it'll be invisible. Plus, I mean, you'd have to jack the car up and look underneath it anyway. So I don't know why I'd bother sometimes, but there you go. So I did manage to avoid the rain, but I've now run out of time for this evening, so I'll put all my tools away and try and carry on tomorrow night. I lied again. I thought I've got all my tools out, I'll just carry on for a little bit longer. So what have I done? I've chopped out all the remaining metal that I don't want in there, cleaned it back to nice shiny metal, which is good. Cleaned off the tail point on that sill. I'm gonna first of all take that bit off, which I didn't see. The panel fits really nicely, and I've got exactly what I need where I need it. There's a bit to sort out at the top, but I'm not too worried about that. If I cut that too big, what a dickhead. Right, so I'm gonna have a bit of a cut to make up. This I can pull forward if I need to, that's not a big deal. While this is all opened up overnight, I'll treat it all with Hydrate 80. Some of it I can get in there with a finger sander. None of it's bad, just wants treating while I've got access. So I'll paint it all in Hydrate 80, then I'll do red oxide over the top. This thing, I'll do zinc on this return here, where I'm gonna tuck it around the back. In fact, no, I'll do the whole thing in red oxide, I think. But yeah, a couple of tiny welds to do on that. Tiny bit of shaping at the top, prep, and I'll probably weld it in another time because I will need all the paint and that to dry. Been quite lucky with the weather, it's held off long enough so I can clean up in there, which I've done, and now I can paint my Hydrate 80. Yeah. Well, you know what me painting stuff looks like. Goody. That is pretty good work for a stolen couple of hours at the end of the day. It's about 7:30. I'm going to go in for some tea, but hopefully in the next few days I can get that in and get the closing panel done. And this side's pretty much done. I do really need to repair that horrible patch there, but while it's solid enough, I'm not going to bother. And then it'll just be tackling this side, which I'm not looking forward to. I mean, it's so stupid. The whole car I was going to put new skins on because of stuff like this, and to know that it was done right, but just don't have time. So what will be will be. I mean, it's not the end of the world to take this glass out and just repair that bit locally. It might actually be easier, and then maybe Body Shop can cut into here, see what's in there, and then reprofile it in a more sympathetic way. It's 5 o'clock. It is lovely and sunny. No rain in sight. So I've come back out. I've got the Ashes on the cricket. England have just bowled out Australia for a not too big a score. I started walloping this to fine shape it, and that went a bit wrong, so I'm now reminding myself where I got to. It ain't far off at all, is it, really? Just needs a little bit more polishing up and dressing. I decided if I'm going to work in this area, I might as well repair that, so I'm going to take the seat base out. It should be quite easy. There's two. Oh, I've done it already. Then under here there should be a screw. No, nobody's done the screw up. That's good for me. That bolster is now out. Well, that was easy. This is the main loom to the rear. Oh, there's our hole, look. Well, that's good, because had there been any other serious rot in here, we'd see it, and there isn't. So hopefully just a little square patch in there to remove that. What I'll have to do is remove this panel and protect all of this area from sparks, and then I can weld a patch in at the same time I'm doing that bit. I'm doing some hobo masking. I've taped off the area around, then I'm going to tape this foil over it in a box. Then I can cut through from this side with the grinder and the sparks shouldn't go anywhere. Well, that's the plan. Right, that worked well. We've got a little hole there and no damaged interior trim. That is my final repair panel. You might think that looks a bit crappy, but unless you've got unbelievable levels of skill and all the right tools, or you start with a massive sheet of metal, that's about the best you're going to get, or best I'm going to get. That now goes in there. Right, so I'm going to get my drill and drill holes through here ready for plug welding. I'm going to drill one in the bottom down here to go onto that bit. Then I'm going to red oxide everything and get ready to weld. And while the red oxide is going off, I'll make a little patch repair for in there as well. England are not doing particularly well in the cricket. I thought they were doing pretty good, but they're not. Ugh, which is a shame. God, I'm getting old. I'm making more old man noises. That is my repair panel. I didn't bother painting all down this side in red oxide because it'll get burnt away when I weld. That's the little plug weld hole ready for going onto that. I've drilled my plug weld holes all around there and excavated away quite a lot of filler. All of that is now painted in red oxide. That's my patch for there. There's no point wasting zinc paint or anything on it because it's all clean metal from this side. So the last thing to do now is to get that in there, do the final walloping. In fact, I'll probably put a couple of tacks here first, then I can crush that in there, then I can hammer that bit till it fits, and that we should be done. That needs to go down a bit. There we go. It needs to go down a little bit more, but you know, it's a lot better than that, which is what was in there. Pretty grubby. That 1996 Zanussi, I believe. Could be a well point, don't know. I'm about maybe halfway through. The plug welds are done up there. Don't be scared. I know it looks a mess and all the paint's burnt off, but you know, that's just the way it had to go. And because I really wanted to pinch those seams up tight, there's some dents out here and in there, but all of this needs fillering anyway, so it doesn't matter. That has worked out really nice. That will sand essentially smooth. This bit is very tight. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to roll it back to touch like I wanted. I might have to cut a slot in it and then weld the slot up afterwards. That's going in fine, nice. That'll be a really nice repair actually. And well, that's it really. It was so close to going beautifully. It doesn't matter how hard I wallop it, I cannot get that bit to sit flush there, and this bit doesn't want to wrap around in the way that I'd intended. So I'm going to have to take the grinder and cut a slot probably about there. Then that bit will roll in, that bit will go flush, and I'll just have to zip it up after. I'm not going to weld right into that corner, which is probably the most sensible place to cut it. But because I won't be able to get in there very well with the grinder afterwards to clean it up, so I'm going to cut about there, and then that should be sort of a happy compromise between the two. Then I'm going to cut as little as I need, because obviously the less I cut, the less I have to weld back up again. Righty ho, welding complete. That is in. That's the stitch I had to do at the top there. I can't really fill that bit in there, so I'll just have to do it with seam sealer. I might have another bash tomorrow, but I've got to go in and cook dinner. But most of it's in, that's done. I'm really happy with the alignment of everything. Yeah, there is a hole there, so I do need to address that. I put a stitch there, just where my panel finished with the old inner wheel arch lip. That will be nipped back and then hidden in filler. That will become an invisible repair. That will become a seam sealed good honest repair. And then what have I done with it? This was the repair patch I made before I decided to go full mental and chop all of it apart. So I'll remake that with the additional bit to go to there and then weld that in. But as I say, that will probably be tomorrow because it's dinner time. Got all of that cleaned up now. That will be ultimately invisible. That will be visible, but not bad. The elephant in the room is this little bit here. There. There's a cut there that I made, and then that hole. But I can't really get in there now. It's really annoying. I might, when I try and weld up this bit. Yeah, I might. Is that a joint? Yeah, actually I should be able to weld that up. This bit, I'll have to put a little bit more metal in. In fact, I might just bandage the whole lot. But the problem being I can't get back in there to weld it. So it might be a fool's errand anyway. But, yeah, annoying. But it's all solid, so it doesn't matter. It can be seam sealed. And next, I'm gonna make my patch for the new one. Mr. Hoover has done his job. That's all cleaned out in there. That's my patch. It's gonna go in there and it'll be seam welded. It should really have a return 90 degrees and then up onto this, but there's no point. It's literally just a rain channel and the way that it would have been assembled in factory, but it's not necessary for me to replicate that. Right. Ugh. That's in there, shaped and beaten so that it butts up nicely. And what I'm going to do now is just seam weld it, and I'll start on these bits, and then I'll probably, I don't know whether I'm going to do a seam all the way along or just stitch it, because when this is done and I've cleaned off all of this, it'll all be bare metalled, epoxied, then a nice generous slug of seam sealer all the way around here. I've decided not to try and weld in a plate in there. I will tack that gap closed, but I'm not going to put more metal in. And I'm also going to epoxy obviously the sills and the return around here. There's quite a lot of surgery still to do in the back, so there's no point me doing that today. So I'll probably just leave a dusting of zinc on it, or maybe some red oxide just to stop the weather. That will all have to be cleaned off again before I go over with the epoxy, because I want that on the bit of metal. But yeah, just going to carry on welding that in and I'll show you the results. And that's me done for tonight. I'm not going to do any more. It's all in. Pretty happy. I'm happy with that bit. I'm happy everything you'll see from outside. This isn't exactly artwork, but meh. By the time it's epoxied, got seam sealer on it and stuff, you won't see it. As an example of that, let's go and have a look at the diesel. So this one was done in a not dissimilar fashion, and you can see by the time it's got stone chip and seam sealer, you can't really tell. So all will be well. The rear is what concerns me. It should, on the one that's outside, have this big thick web on it, like I've replicated here. That car doesn't have it. It's been sanded really smooth, and I'm not sure totally what to do with that one yet. Let's see what the green one looks like. Oh yeah, this one's completely missing. There's no point trying to copy that. Yeah, so at some point in the future I'll be doing exactly the same job on that, although I'll probably do this one slightly differently because I've already decided I'm going to put sills on for the full length of this one. Right, that is the end of the video, I believe, and probably the end of looking at the gold car. As I say, it's not generally a feature of my videos, it's just because it needed this work, and I will do the other side, but I probably won't record it because it's exactly the same as what I've done here. So, end of video. It's Friday night. I'm gonna have a curry and some beer. Have a great weekend. Bye. Postscript. I'm just tidying up the car before it pisses it down. This is what was left from the remains. And it's only when you look back at stuff and think, oh, I actually have done quite a lot of work, and I'm glad I've done it. Multiple layers of corrosion, all stuck together, big old crusty bits like that. So, I mean, look at that, that's horrible. It is nice sometimes just taking a step back and reflecting what was in there. And even though I'm not super happy with what I've done, I came out this morning and was like, it doesn't actually look that much better, but it is better. There is no rot, so that is why I did it, and that's what I have to keep reminding myself.